What happens when your own family betrays you and steals everything you've worked for? Watch how I fought back, uncovered their secrets, and reclaimed my future. This is my shocking journey. My name is Olivia Carter. I'm 33 years old and I've spent most of my life doing what I thought was right. I became a nurse at Memorial Hospital because I wanted to help people, to make a difference in their lives, even if it was just for a moment. I worked double shifts, picked up extra hours in the ICU, and sacrificed my own happiness for the well-being of others. But despite all that, the one thing I never imagined happening was the betrayal that would come from the people I loved the most, my own family. You see, I come from a family that's always been complicated. My mom, Olivia Carter, remarried a few years after my dad passed away. My stepdad, Tom Harris, has been part of our lives for as long as I can remember, but it's my younger stepbrother, Jake Harrison, that changed everything. Jake is 38 now, and for as long as I've known him, he's never really done anything substantial with his life. Always jumping from one failed business venture to another. Always the charming, smooth-talking guy who thought he deserved the world without having to work for it. And yet, he was the one who always got what he wanted. Me? I've always been the responsible one. While Jake was out there squandering money and getting into trouble, I was at home studying, working part-time jobs to pay my way through nursing school, and putting every single penny I earned into savings. I was the one who took on the burden, the one who stepped in when things went wrong. When my parents were facing the very real threat of foreclosure, I didn't hesitate. I offered to help. I knew it would take everything I had, but I didn't care. I thought if I could help them, maybe I'd finally prove my worth to them. I had always been the one to work hard, to sacrifice for the family, and yet it was never enough. So I took all my savings, $175,000, and handed it over to them. I remember the day we looked at the house together, the one that would be ours. A beautiful colonial-style house on Maple Street. It was everything I had dreamed of, a place where we could gather as a family, where we could create new memories. I imagined holidays there, cozy evenings by the fireplace, laughter filling every room. It was supposed to be mine because I had paid for it, but they assured me time and time again that it would be our house. The agreement had been clear. The house would be in my name, since I was the one who provided the down payment. There were no misunderstandings, no hidden clauses. Or so I thought. But of course things didn't go as planned. The housewarming party was supposed to be a joyous occasion. I had spent weeks planning, making sure everything was perfect, picking out every detail. New towels for the bathrooms, soft pillows for the living room, a welcome mat that read "Home Sweet Home." I thought I was celebrating the beginning of something new, something I worked so hard for. But as soon as the party started, everything came crashing down. I was standing in the kitchen when my mom, Lori, walked in, holding something in her hand. It was the deed to the house. I thought she was showing it to me as a sign of gratitude, maybe a small gesture of appreciation for all I'd done. But then she said the words that would shatter everything. "You're being ridiculous, Olivia. Jake needs this more than you do. He has a family to support. What do you have? Just yourself." Her words hit me like a slap to the face. I froze. I could hardly breathe as I stood there, in the kitchen of the house I had bought with my own money. And that's when I learned the truth. The house, the one I had saved for, worked for, sacrificed for, wasn't mine. It never was. I stood there, my entire world crumbling around me. My mom handed the deed to Jake, her golden child. She told me to be happy for him, to accept the fact that I was helping him start his family. As if my contribution meant nothing. As if I meant nothing. The anger, the hurt. It all bubbled up inside me. It wasn't just the money that I had lost. It was the years I had spent working, the holidays I had missed, the relationships I had put on hold. Also, I could help my family. And now, here they were, taking it all from me, as if it was theirs to take. I looked at Jake standing there with his smug grin, and I realized something. I had been a fool. I had always been there for them, always the reliable one. But they didn't care. They never had. I was done. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The moment my mom handed Jake the deed to the house, I felt my world crash down around me. It was supposed to be my victory, my reward for everything I had sacrificed, but instead it was his. I stood there, frozen in the kitchen, staring at the piece of paper that had once represented my dreams. dreams I had built with the sweat of my brow. Now it was in Jake's hands, as though it had always belonged to him. "You're being ridiculous, Olivia," my mom said, her voice distant and sharp, as she handed the deed to Jake. "Jake needs this more than you do. He has a family to support, you don't. What do you have? Just yourself?" Her words felt like a slap. I tried to take a deep breath to hold it all together, but I could feel the anger rising inside me, hot and suffocating. Everything I had done, everything I had given, none of it mattered. In that moment I realized how little they valued me, how little they saw me. I had given up so much to help them, sacrificed my own life, my own happiness to make sure they were okay. I worked long hours at Memorial Hospital, picking up extra shifts, saving every penny. I had worked so hard to be the one they could rely on, but now, standing in this beautiful house that I had bought with my own savings, it was Jake who was getting everything. Jake. My stepbrother. The one who had never contributed anything to this family. The one who had failed over and over again. The one who had always gotten a second chance, a third, a fourth, while I had to make do with nothing. My stepdad, Tom, stood beside my mom, not even looking at me as he clinked his drink and shrugged. "You're fine, Olivia. You're a nurse, you'll earn it back. You don't have anyone to take care of, do you? Jake needs this for his family." His words stung like acid. "You'll earn it back," he said, as though the money, the years I spent working tirelessly, didn't mean anything. And the part about me not having anyone to care for? That was the knife in the heart. I had worked my entire life to care for everyone else, to make sure they were all okay. And now it was being thrown back in my face. Jake, standing there with his smug grin, acted like he had won something. Like he deserved this. I could feel the rage bubbling up inside me, my chest tightening as I fought to keep control. But nothing felt fair. Nothing about this was right. I turned to look around at the other guests, all of them shuffling uncomfortably, unsure of what to say or do. Aunt Sarah was in the corner, her eyes wide with disbelief. She had been my rock for as long as I could remember. She knew how much I had sacrificed. But even she couldn't help me now. No one could. "This is wrong." I finally managed to choke out, my voice trembling with hurt and anger. "How could you do this to me?" My mother rolled her eyes, clearly frustrated. "Olivia, stop being so dramatic. Jake needs this house. He's about to have a baby. You don't need it. You'll save again. It's just a house. Just a house." The words cut through me like a knife. To her it was just a house. To me it was everything. It was the result of all the years of struggle, of missed holidays, of broken relationships. Everything I had worked for. And now it was gone. Just like that. "You think I don't need this?" I asked, my voice rising, but I couldn't control it anymore. "I gave everything for you. Everything. And this is how you repay me." She stood there unblinking, her arms crossed. "You'll get over it. You always do. You'll just move on like you always do." I felt a knot of disbelief tighten in my chest. She didn't get it. She didn't get how much I had sacrificed. How much I had given up. I had spent my whole life proving myself to them, but it was never enough. The house was supposed to be a symbol of my hard work, of my dedication. But now it was a symbol of my failure. My family's disregard for me. I turned away, my hands shaking at my sides. I couldn't be here anymore. I couldn't look at them. As I walked toward the door, I felt Rachel's presence behind me. My best friend, always there, always by my side. She followed me into the kitchen, her face filled with sympathy and concern. "You need to get out of here," Rachel said quietly, her voice full of empathy. "You deserve so much more than this." I nodded, swallowing hard, trying to hold myself together. I had been waiting for this moment, waiting to finally get something back for all the sacrifices I had made. But now I realized something. This wasn't just about the house. This was about standing up for myself. I couldn't let them treat me like this anymore. As I stepped out into the cold air, I could feel the weight of everything lift, just slightly. I wasn't going to let this slide. Not this time. I had done enough for them. Now it was time to do something for me. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was racing, my thoughts tangled in a whirlwind of betrayal, anger, and confusion. The house, the money, the years of sacrifice. All of it seemed so insignificant now, as if I had been living in a dream. I had always been the one to give, to put the needs of others before my own. I worked long hours at Memorial, picking up every extra shift I could. I did it because I had a responsibility, because my family relied on me. But no matter how much I gave, it was never enough. No one ever saw it. No one ever acknowledged it. The holidays I spent alone, the nights I skipped dinner because I was too exhausted to eat, the relationships I put on hold, all the while my stepbrother Jake had been getting a free ride. He had always been the one to mess up, to fail, but everyone just swept it under the rug, giving him chance after chance. And I was the one who was supposed to be strong, reliable, the one who could always be counted on. But for what? As the days passed, the anger inside me began to fester. The more I thought about it, the more I realized something wasn't right. My mom's dismissal of everything I had done, her complete disregard for the agreement we had, something about it all felt off. She was so casual about handing over the deed to Jake. There had to be more to it. I had trusted her. I had trusted them all. One morning, while sorting through some old paperwork, I found the original agreement that had been signed when I gave them the money for the house. It was in my handwriting, my signature. But as I looked at the document, something didn't sit right. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was a feeling in my gut, a nagging thought that something had been tampered with. Just as I was about to call Rachel, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Olivia, it's George Wilkins," the voice on the other end said. "I was a friend of your father's. I know there's a lot you don't know, and I think you need to hear it." My heart skipped a beat. George Wilkins, an old family friend. I hadn't heard from him in years. His voice was low, almost urgent. "There's more going on here than you realize. Your family's been hiding things. There's a property, a big one, that's been kept from you." I froze, my pulse quickening. What was he talking about? Your mother, your stepfather. They've been involved in something for a while. I don't want to go into it over the phone, but I think you need to take a closer look. There's more money, more property, more than they've let on. The line went silent for a moment, and I could hear the faint sound of traffic in the background. My mind was spinning, trying to process what he had just said. "I'll meet you," I whispered, barely able to keep my voice steady. "Where?" He gave me an address. I didn't know what to believe, but something in his voice told me I needed to dig deeper. After hanging up, I sat there in disbelief. My stomach churned. Had they really been hiding this from me? Was this all part of a larger scheme? I had to know. I had to get to the bottom of it. And I would. No matter what it took. This was no longer just about the house. It was about everything I had been blind to all these years. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in my chest. The conversation with George Wilkins had left me more confused and unsettled than ever. A property, more money, more land, things I didn't know about, things my family had hidden from me. I had to see it for myself. I made my way back to the house. The place that was supposed to be a fresh start. A home full of hope and new beginnings. But now it felt like a tomb. The walls, once filled with the promise of family gatherings, now felt cold and hollow. I entered the house quietly, my footsteps echoing in the empty space. The furniture was still where we'd left it. The pillows I'd chosen carefully were on the couch, the home sweet home mat by the door. It all felt so wrong. I stood there for a moment, taking in the surroundings, trying to steady my racing heart. I needed answers. I walked through the living room, my gaze scanning the space, when something caught my eye. Behind the sofa, just at the edge of the wall, was a small wooden chest, old, covered in dust. I had never noticed it before. The sight of it made my pulse quicken. Without thinking, I crouched down and pulled it out. The chest was surprisingly heavy. My hands trembled as I opened it, and inside I found a stack of papers, old, yellowed, and covered in thick layers of dust. My breath caught in my throat as I sifted through the documents. Most were financial statements, old contracts, and property agreements, but one piece of paper stopped me cold. It was the deed to another property, one I had never seen before. The location, the value, everything about it was unfamiliar. And then I saw the familiar name at the bottom, Jake Harrison. My hands shook as I unfolded the papers, my mind racing. How could I have never known about this? How could my family have kept this from me? My head spun with disbelief and anger. This wasn't just about the house anymore. There were deeper secrets, things my family had been hiding for years. But that wasn't all. Beneath the deed was another letter. This one was dated just a few months ago. It was from the family lawyer, and it contained a warning. The transfer of the Maple Street property to Jake Harrison without Olivia Carter's consent could be considered fraudulent. The legality of this transfer is questionable. The blood drained from my face. Fraudulent. They had known. They had known all along that what they were doing was wrong. They had tried to steal it from me legally, yes, but still a theft. I could feel my stomach churn. The betrayal cutting deeper than anything I had ever experienced. I sat back, breathing heavily, trying to process what I had just discovered. My family, the people I had spent my entire life helping, had been scheming against me. This was not just about money, it was about power, control, and manipulation. I knew now what I had to do. I couldn't let this slide. They had crossed a line and it was time to fight back. But first I needed to know everything. I needed to dig deeper, uncover every secret they'd been hiding. And I would, no matter the cost. The weight of what I had discovered in the chest hung heavily over me as I made my way to David Walker's office. The papers in my bag felt like lead, each document a painful reminder of the betrayal my family had inflicted upon me. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I had to act. David was a seasoned real estate lawyer. He had a reputation for handling complex cases, and I trusted him more than anyone else right now. When I walked into his office, he greeted me with a polite smile, but his expression shifted to one of concern when I handed him the stack of documents. "You're sure about this, Olivia?" he asked as he looked over the papers, his brow furrowing. "This isn't just a misunderstanding?" I shook my head, my voice steady but filled with the emotion I had been holding back.
No, David.
It's fraud. I'm sure of it. He examined the deed closely, then glanced at me, his face serious. Well, it's clear. This transfer was not only unethical, it was likely illegal. There's no way this can stand. If you want to pursue this, we can file a claim to void the transfer. It's a strong case. The words hit me like a wave of cold water. There it was, confirmation. What my family had done was criminal. But that wasn't enough. I couldn't just stop at taking back the house. They had to understand that their actions had consequences. They needed to know that I wouldn't let them manipulate me anymore. David continued, flipping through the papers with practiced precision. This could even lead to criminal charges, depending on how deep this goes. You've got grounds for a fraud case. But be warned, it's going to get messy. I nodded, resolute. I'm ready. Let's do it. Just as I was about to stand and head out, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out and the number was unfamiliar. For a moment I hesitated, but something told me I needed to answer. "Olivia, it's George Wilkins," the voice on the other end said. "I think there's more you need to know. Something big's going on, and your family is deeper into this than you realize." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath before continuing. "There's more property, more assets your family has been hiding. But there's something even more dangerous here. Someone in your family is playing a much bigger game. I don't trust them all, Olivia. Not even the ones you think are on your side." A chill ran down my spine. Who could he be talking about? My mom? Jake? Tom? Who else in my family could be involved in this web of deceit? "I don't have all the details," George continued. "But I strongly suggest you tread carefully. There's a lot more at stake here than just a house." I swallowed hard, my mind racing with the implications. "Thank you, George. I'll be careful." After hanging up, I sat still for a moment, processing what I had just learned. This wasn't just about the house anymore. This was a much bigger mess, and it seemed like everyone I trusted had something to hide. I had made up my mind. I was going to take legal action not just for the money but to expose the truth. I was done being the victim. I wasn't going to let my family continue this charade. No matter what it took, I was going to fight for my rights and for my dignity. I couldn't shake the unease that gnawed at me as I sat across from David Walker. The pile of documents spread between us. I had come here for answers, for a plan to take back what was mine. But now, as I watched David scrutinize each page, I felt the weight of the situation settle deeper in my chest. David paused on one document, his eyes narrowing. "Olivia, there's something strange about this," he said slowly, pointing to my signature on the deed. "It's your signature, but something's off. The flow doesn't look right." My stomach lurched. I leaned in, my heart pounding as I studied the document. It looked like my signature, but there was a subtle difference. A slight deviation in the curves of my letters that I had never seen before. A chill ran down my spine. Are you saying it's been forged? I asked, my voice trembling. David didn't answer immediately. He flipped through the rest of the papers, his brow furrowed. I can't say for certain without further investigation, but this definitely looks like someone altered it. And if that's the case, Olivia... He paused, letting the gravity of the situation hang in the air. You could be the victim of forgery, and that opens up a whole new legal angle. This could get very complicated. I sat back in my chair, stunned. Was this possible? Was my own signature being used against me? A sick feeling crawled up my throat as I tried to process it. Then a thought crossed my mind, Sophie Miller. She was the only one who knew about my agreement with my family, the only person who had been with me when I signed the documents. Could she have been involved? I shook my head, trying to push the thought away. Sophie had been my best friend for years. But the nagging doubt kept growing. What if she had betrayed me too? What if she had been complicit in this? The questions kept swirling as I left David's office, but I knew I couldn't waste any more time. I had to confront my family. I had to demand answers. That night, I drove to my parents' house. I could feel the anger building inside me with every mile. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about everything. The lies. The manipulation. The years of feeling invisible. I had given them everything, and now it was time to take back control. When I arrived, my mom and Jake were sitting in the living room. Jake's smug expression flickered when he saw me, but my mom didn't even look up from her phone. I know what you've done, I said, my voice steady but sharp. You've taken what's mine, and I'm not going to let you get away with it. Jake scoffed. Oh please, Olivia. This again. But my mom, finally looking up, gave me a cold, dismissive look. What do you want, Olivia? The house is Jake's now. You should be happy for him. I stepped forward, my voice growing more determined. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to take back what's mine. I want that house back, and I want you to fix this. Now. My mom's face twisted with annoyance, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew I wasn't going to back down this time. I'm done letting you control my life, I added, looking directly at Jake. You won't get away with this. Not anymore. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to stand up for myself. My family had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let them drag me down any longer. It was time for them to face the consequences. The tension in the room was palpable as my mother and Jake glared at me, their expressions hardening with every word I spoke. But in that moment I realized something. They weren't just trying to take the house from me, they were playing a much bigger game. This wasn't just about money or property, it was about power. And Jake was the mastermind behind it all. As I left my parents' house, my mind spun with everything that had just happened. The confrontation had gone exactly as I expected. My mother dismissing me, Jake making snide remarks, all of them acting like this was just another family disagreement. But something had shifted inside me. I knew now that I wasn't dealing with an isolated issue. Jake had been planning this for far longer than I had imagined. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Jake was no fool. He wasn't just taking advantage of a vulnerable situation. He had orchestrated this entire scheme. I'd been so caught up in the betrayal of my own family that I hadn't seen the bigger picture. Jake hadn't just stolen the house. He had been carefully crafting a plan to seize control of the family's assets. He had used his charm and manipulation to get everyone to back him, even if it meant pulling strings behind the scenes. The more I thought about it, the more I could see it. Jake had started making deals with a network of lawyers and even quietly met with local officials to secure his position. I couldn't believe it. My family wasn't just complicit, they were accomplices. They had helped Jake pull this off, whether they knew the full extent of it or not. He had been playing them, playing all of us for his own gain. And it had worked. But I wasn't going to let him get away with it. Not now. Not after everything I had given up. I decided I needed to dig deeper, find out everything I could. I couldn't just rely on what George had said, or on the evidence I had gathered so far. I needed to see the bigger picture for myself, confront Jake directly, and expose everything he had been hiding. The next day I met with David Walker again. He was my ally, the only person who seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. I couldn't afford to make any more mistakes. David, I said, my voice firm. I've realized there's more to this than just the house. Jake's been planning this for months, maybe longer. He's pulling strings with lawyers, with officials. He's got a whole operation running behind the scenes. David nodded slowly, his expression grave. I thought there might be more to this. If he's got the right people in his pocket, it's going to be tough to fight. Then we have to expose him. We have to make sure he can't get away with this. David agreed. I'll need to do some digging, get a better sense of what Jake's been up to. But we can't waste any time. If he's as deep into this as it seems, he's got his hooks in all the wrong places. The weight of the situation settled on me again. But this time I wasn't scared. I wasn't going to back down. I had made up my mind. I was going to take back everything Jake had stolen from me, and I wasn't going to stop until I had exposed every secret he was hiding. The fight was just beginning, and I was ready for whatever came next. The courtroom was quiet as the judge called for order. My heart raced in my chest as I stood there, the weight of the last few months pressing heavily on my shoulders. It had been a long, exhausting battle, one I had never imagined fighting, let alone winning. But today, as I stood on the precipice of victory, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. David had worked tirelessly behind the scenes, gathering evidence, contacting witnesses, and exposing the truth about Jake's deception. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I thought I couldn't do it anymore, when the legal battles seemed too overwhelming, when my family's manipulation and lies almost made me give up. But each time I remembered the house that was never supposed to be mine, but that had become the symbol of everything I had lost. After what felt like an eternity, the judge finally spoke. In light of the evidence presented, and the fraudulent transfer of the property, the court rules in favor of Olivia Carter. The deed to the property on Maple Street is hereby transferred back to its rightful owner. I almost couldn't believe it. I had won. I was getting the house back. My heart swelled with a mixture of relief and disbelief as I stood there, letting the reality of the situation sink in. Jake, my mother, and Tom sat in stunned silence, the weight of their defeat settling in. They had lost. Everything they had fought so hard for was slipping away. Then, in an unexpected twist, they were forced to sign a statement acknowledging their actions. It was a legal declaration admitting to the fraud they had committed. They had no choice but to comply with the court's ruling, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like justice had been served. But as the judge banged the gavel, signaling the end of the case, something inside me shifted. Yes, I had won. But was it worth keeping the house? The answer came to me almost immediately. No. The house had been a symbol of everything I had fought for. My hard work, my sacrifices. But it had also been a constant reminder of betrayal, of the family who had used me. I didn't want to keep it. I didn't need it anymore. Instead, I sold the house. I found a buyer. A developer who offered a price far above market value. It was a clean break, a way to put the past behind me. The sale provided me with enough to purchase a new home, one I had always dreamed of but never thought I could afford. A small, charming cottage with a garden where I could finally breathe, finally build the life I had always wanted. The money from the sale, combined with the legal settlement, allowed me to create a fresh start. I planted flowers in the garden, choosing each one with care, knowing that they represented the new chapter of my life. A chapter where I had reclaimed control of my destiny. And perhaps the most important lesson I had learned through all of this was the importance of setting boundaries. I had always been the one to give, to sacrifice, to put others first. But in doing so, I had lost myself. This time I had stood up for myself. I had taken control, and I wasn't going to let anyone cross my boundaries again. As I sat on the porch of my new home, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange, I realized something profound. I wasn't just free from my family's manipulation. I was free to be the person I had always wanted to be. My life was my own now, and I was finally at peace. The days that followed my move into the cottage felt like a breath of fresh air. For the first time in years, I was living on my own terms, free from the weight of family expectations, free from the constant sacrifice I had made for others. It wasn't just about the house or the money anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, finding my peace. I spent my days tending to my garden, each plant a symbol of my growth. I learned how to enjoy the small things. Reading on the porch, taking long walks through the neighborhood, and cooking meals without rushing through them. I started taking time for myself, something I had never done before. No longer was I the one who always put others first, no longer the one who was always expected to give. I also learned to protect myself, to set boundaries, healthy, firm boundaries. I had to cut ties with those who had taken advantage of me for so long, even if it meant distancing myself from family. I no longer felt guilty for choosing myself. Living my truth, living for me, was the greatest gift I could have given myself. I had everything I needed: peace, a future, and the strength to never go back.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for updates on new videos. See you next time.